Welcome to the announcement of the $101 million XPRIZE Healthspan. My name is Peter Diamandis. I serve as the founder and executive chairman of the XPRIZE, and so proud to be here in Riyadh with our host, Hevolution, at the Global Healthspan Summit. And we have some exciting announcements and conversations for you today. So those of you watching this from around the world, welcome, a pleasure to have you. Those of you here with us in Riyadh, thank you for joining us. It was just a few hours ago that we were on stage here at the Healthspan Summit, kicking off officially the XPRIZE, and here we are kicking it off around the world. Let me take a second to talk about what the XPRIZE Foundation is. We are 29 years old this year. Hard for me to imagine that. But we were formed in 1994. We launched our very first XPRIZE in 1996 under the Arch in St. Louis. And I remember that moment in time. We had 20 astronauts on stage, the head of NASA, the head of the FAA. 8 years later, that prize was awarded, a $10 million prize for private spaceflight. And just like today, we're announcing this $101 million prize. I'm looking forward to being on this stage with our benefactors, who you'll meet in a few moments, in 2030, welcoming the winners of this competition. So it's a beautiful moment in time. The XPRIZE Foundation has launched, as of this prize, just over $400 million in XPRIZE competitions. We've had north of 10,000 teams around the world, 140 countries compete. And these competitions drive at least tenfold return on the investment. For every dollar of purse, we're driving 10x that amount in R&D. So we have launched prizes in a wide range of areas, from commercial spaceflight was our first, to cleaning up oil spills on the ocean, to mapping the ocean floor, to educating kids in the middle of Tanzania, to a whole range of things. Most recently, we launched a $100 million gigaton carbon prize that Elon Musk kindly funded, and an $11 million wildfire prize to detect a wildfire at the moment of ignition and put it out autonomously within 10 minutes. So today we're announcing the largest prize ever, the largest XPRIZE, the largest prize, period. It's a $101 million prize for extending healthspan. We'll speak about that in a minute, and another $10 million for solving FSHD, a muscular dystrophy, $111 million of total capital. This prize began as a conversation 7 years ago with a dear friend, Sergey Young, who is here. Sergey put up $500,000 of seed money to have us research this prize. And that $500,000 has now been leveraged a huge amount, 280-fold, to raise. We raised $141 million for the prize purses and operations here. And for me, this is a moment in time that comes with tremendous pleasure. So we began this conversation as a longevity prize idea and realized that the idea of waiting 20 years to see if someone won the prize was probably impractical. And it was through some conversations with a few individuals, one of whom you'll meet in a little bit, Dr. George Church, and through Mahmoud Khan, that we shifted from longevity to really looking at age reversal first and then functional restoration second. See, it doesn't really matter what your epigenetic age is. Do you actually feel younger? Do you have the muscle, immune, and cognition that you had 10 or 20 years ago? Because that's, at the end of the game, that's what really matters. Do you have that capability? So I want to begin by giving my heartfelt gratitude to our co-title sponsors, the largest funder, which is Hevolution, and we'll meet Dr. Mahmoud Khan in a few moments. We wouldn't be here, and again, thank you, Mahmoud, for hosting us here at this beautiful summit here in Riyadh, in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And of course, our other co-title sponsor, Chip Wilson and his foundation, Solve FSHD. We'll be hearing from you in a few moments, Chip. And I'm just thrilled by the group of individuals, in addition to Mahmoud and Chip, there's a group of 16 individuals, includes myself and many others, a few here, who have underwritten this. And so I want to just say a heartfelt thank you to them, and I will return with that details later. Before we go any further, what I'd like to do is show a short video that will give you a sense of what this prize is about. So let's roll the video, please.
Time is the universal constant. We're all bound to it, formed by it. Though we can't stop the clock, what if we could give ourselves the opportunity to live a better quality of life, far longer than we ever imagined? By 2050, the global population of people over 60 years old is expected to nearly double, but we're not anticipating a similar increase in health. That's why XPRIZE is launching our largest prize ever. XPRIZE Healthspan is a 7-year, $101 million global competition to revolutionize how we approach human aging. Leading this innovative prize is Dr. Jamie Justice.
What we need is a call to arms to bring us together and actually move us forward in tandem towards a common goal.
Healthspan will incentivize teams to develop groundbreaking therapeutics that target biological aging to improve function and extend healthy life by 10 years, with a target of 20 years.
Aging is not a fixed property. We're more than the candles on a birthday cake. We actually have a biology that can be targeted and treated.
It's one of the most important things we can do. And for that reason, we're launching this prize right now in the early 2020s with a target towards hitting a solution by the year 2030.
We're looking for equitable, accessible solutions that can improve function for anyone around the globe.
By addressing the root cause of the problem, we can catalyze the field of age-related health, increase the quality of life, build stronger communities, and return $38 trillion to the global economy. XPRIZE Healthspan will democratize health and create a future where the potential of aging matches the wisdom that comes with it.
I would say, as a closure more or less, that it's important the older you get to try to make the best of every single day.
Together, we can change the narrative of what it means to age. Join us on this journey.
To find out more about how you can be involved, head to xprize.org/healthspan.
Thank you. Let me reinforce, if you're a team at home, a prospective team, go to xprize.org/healthspan and register. That's our mission here today, to get hundreds, perhaps thousands of teams. This decade is different than any other decade. This decade, we have democratized and we're demonetizing the tools to enable entrepreneurs and scientists and small teams to do what only governments and the largest corporations could do before. With compute, with AI, soon with quantum chemistry and quantum compute, these are the tools to enable us to understand why we age, how to slow it, how to stop it, perhaps even how to reverse it. 4 hopes for this competition, 4 things that we desire. 1, to attract teams, hundreds of teams, maybe thousands of teams. 2nd, to drive the regulatory conversation. For regulators around the world to start to begin and understand that aging is a root cause, and we need to go after aging fundamentally. Number 3, to get the public excited. You should know and hope that you may well make it healthfully into your 90s or longer. Are you saving enough money? Is death do you part still going to be valid after 60, 70, or 80 years? All right, wasn't that funny? Okay, fine. And then finally, to drive an increase in investment. There's no greater wealth than our health. So I'm going to state what this prize is, what you have to do to win it, and then bring out the really smart person who will tell you the details of this prize. So this is a 7-year competition. It's launched here in 2023 with a culmination by 2030. It might be one before then, but that's the end goal. People like having an end. It drives them to take action. To win this, you need to develop a therapeutic treatment that you can deliver in 1 year or less. If your therapeutic treatment takes a day, fantastic. If you need a year, you can take the whole year. And with that treatment, we want you to restore lost function in immune, muscle, and cognition by at least 10 years. My target, my hope for all of you is you hit at least 20 years, right? Our mission is to live healthfully, to intercept all the technologies coming our way. So we kicked it off earlier, again, in this beautiful facility here in Riyadh. And it is a true honor for me to bring onto stage the executive director. Now, I've been working on this prize for 7 years, and this is the moment in time where I hand off the baby to the new leader. So Dr. Jamie Justice is the executive director of the XPRIZE Healthspan competition, adjunct professor in gerontology and geriatric medicine at Wake Forest School of Medicine. And we could not find a better person. We interviewed north of 100, and when we were able to get Jamie to come on board, I had congratulatory calls from people saying, "My God, you got the perfect person." Jamie, truly an honor. Thank you and welcome.
Peter,
welcome.
Thank you.
Please, why don't you take a...
I'll sit here.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. Well, Peter, thank you for having me here, and thanks for inviting me
So
to
did
be
you
part
ever-
of this mission.
I mean, you were just a few months ago at Wake Forest,
That's right.
at the lab bench, writing grants.
Yes.
And would you imagine you'd be in Riyadh? And what made you give up the career track that you're on to get here?
Oh my gosh. So this is a great question, and one that I am excited to be able to answer is that I didn't give anything up. What I've done is I've gained. Is that I am the first of a generation of geroscientists. And so what that means is that I have been trained to think about the biology of aging as something that's not fixed but malleable. We can begin to understand that biology, learn its functional consequences, and importantly, find some of the therapeutic opportunities within that. And so my training was started I've done this from the beginning. So worked at this at the University of Colorado in Boulder. And then again at Wake Forest University School of Medicine, where one of my mentors is in the audience today, Steve Krzyzewski, worked on work going from cells to model organisms to clinical trials. These clinical trials are both small proof of concept trials with things like a new class of drugs that target a cell type called cell senescence that we'll hear about later. Have also worked on lifestyle interventions and even large clinical trials that were designed to create a new regulatory landscape for aging. And through that time, I've had a chance to know intimately the biology, the incredible breakthroughs in the field that many of my colleagues that are here and hopefully watching online have been able to contribute to. We know the potential. We know that things are right there, ready to translate, ready for clinical trials, if we could just come together and gain consensus on how we're measuring, what we're measuring, and how we do this. And so that's what this prize is.
Do you think this prize can make a dent in that field?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so what we've needed is a call to arms and also a time to pull everyone together. And what a great opportunity is that we're looking for real solutions for real people. Is that, healthy aging is not a luxury, but a necessity. And so by doing this as a prize, one that's open and transparent, and we begin a public conversation, is that we can talk about what this means. We can talk about how it's measured. We can talk about the frameworks. And we can do so in a way that is safe, equitable, transparent, and for the benefit of the good. This is meant to be a radically collaborative effort, unlike anything that we could do on our own. And so that's what makes this XPRIZE different than anything else that's out there, is that, we have a global aging population.
It's convenient that all humans have the same biology.
It is incredible. And, far from being a burden or anything else, our long lives, this is one of the greatest breakthroughs in human history. It's a really incredible opportunity. Our life expectancy has more than doubled in the last 100 years. But the challenge that comes with that, because there's so much potential, so much opportunity, but our healthy lives have not increased at the same rate. And so currently there is about 10-year period that we now spend at the end of life in poor health. And that's that lost decade that we need novel, innovative solutions in order to make up. And that's what this prize is really well poised to do, and do so in a very meaningful way that engages and tries to push people through that lost translational space to get things from the bench to the bedside in a time that we need them most.
So a little bit about why these three topics of muscle, immune, and cognition.
Great question.
And if you would, you're announcing guidelines today.
We are.
And can you speak about what, not what's in there, because it's a pretty significant document, but how you're going to go from guidelines with your endpoints committee to a final set of rules?
That's great. So I'm going to go into a few more of the details on the prize a little bit later when we bring up some of our teams. But we do have, for those out there, make sure you go on. It's www.xprize.org. You can access those competition guidelines. Please look at them. Is that this is not fixed. When we talk about this being a radically collaborative effort, this is the start of a process and a journey that we take together. Those guidelines were created with the help of an amazing team. A few of these individuals are here with us. We've had an endpoints committee that's actually worked tireless hours with me over the last few months. We have, led by a co-chair who's not with us, Dr. Patrick Maxwell at the University of Cambridge. We also have Tom Rando, who is in the audience now from the UCLA Broad Stem Cell Research Institute at UCLA. And we also have Dr. Steve Ostad, who is here, a scientific director at American Federation for Aging Research and also University of Alabama.
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing endpoints committee.
It is. And we have also another person who's not here, the scientific director of National Institute on Aging, Luigi Ferrucci. Yes. And so this was a team that really pulled together and put out the first working guidelines. But again, this is not a fixed document. This is where the conversation starts.
Yeah, we're looking for feedback from the community over the next 6 months. Are we measuring the right things? Are we measuring them the right way? What ideas do you have? And then Jamie gets to do all the hard work and come up with the final rules.
Again, this is exactly what I have been doing. This is my science. This is my passion. I'm really happy to be here and to be a spokesperson for the community. That's really what I have the opportunity to do. Again, building a global community, doing this transparently, doing this in the public so that we can all start a conversation together about what healthy aging means and how we can test this and drive things from the lab to the bench in faster time and in a way that benefits humanity.
So, muscle, so we have great mobility as we age. Cognition, so you can enjoy the conversations around you, and immunity, so you can defend yourself against infectious disease and cancer. Those were the three topics we talked about. Multiple other tissues and organs ended up on those three, and I think they're a great set of targets for us.
I agree completely. These are the things that keep people active, engaged with their community, interacting with their grandkids, walking, doing, thinking. And I think we all went through a great pandemic and had a lot of opportunity to learn just how critical our immune systems are. These will be the things that actually keep working, engaging, active community. So again, looking at that lost decade and how do we keep engaged and plugged in. Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody, Jamie Justice.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Jamie. This would not happen were it not for the benefactors, right? Coming up with an idea is the easy part. Raising the capital has been a 7-year journey, and then finalizing the rules has been part of that as well. So at this time, I'd like to introduce our two co-titled sponsors, incredible individuals. I'm going to be asking them each to step up here one at a time. First, Hevolution, and then SOLVE FSHD. So I have known Dr. Mahmoud Khan for the better part of 20 years. I can call him a personal friend first and foremost. He is the CEO of Hevolution and our host here in Riyadh. He has served as vice chairman and chief scientific officer at PepsiCo, president of global R&D at Takeda Pharmaceuticals, and earlier in his career was a member in endocrinology at Mayo Clinic and the medical school, and has served as director of diabetes, endocrine, and nutritional trial unit. But first and foremost, I just want to say a personal, heartfelt thank you for stepping up. Mahmoud, please join me up on stage. Please. So we began our conversation around Hevolution stepping in to fund the largest chunk of the prize money here about 18 months ago, shortly after you took the role. Can you, for our audience, tell everybody what Hevolution is, first and foremost? And I'm amazed at the amount of capital you're deploying in this field. Can you speak to your vision and what the kingdom has enabled?
So our vision statement, I think, summarizes it from our perspective pretty clearly. Our vision is to expand healthy lifespan for the benefit of all, simply stated. And we were created as a nonprofit, and those of you who are familiar with this part of the world, we were created by royal order, signed by the king himself. That's only happened once before in the last 70 years. We're the second ever and the first global. So it's not a common event. The second is our mandate was truly think about every person on the planet, which is for the benefit of all. And so this guides us in terms of democratization of everything we do, scaling it regardless of where you are, what your wealth status is, what your religion is, etc. So that was very clear. We've brought that to action, and when I had my first conversations with His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince, the vision, that part was the easy one to understand, and there was a public announcement made before I became CEO that the foundation was willing to commit 4 billion riyals a year to move this field forward.
Translation, about $1 billion a year.
About just over $1 billion a year. And you might ask, how did you come up with that number? It was very easy. We looked at the National Institute of Aging's investment in aging biology, and we looked at the industries, and we said we've got to take it up by about 5-fold if you're really going to move this field forward. So it wasn't just a rounding number. There was a very logical basis to really want to move this field. So that was one part. The second, there was a lot of discussion about to move this field into the marketplace. It's not only going to be funding science, but translating that science into the marketplace, for which you're going to have to attract venture capital, typically, to create biotech opportunities, and get large industry to get behind it, and ultimately put it in the hands of clinicians and consumers. That requires having an organization that only funds science, but invests patient capital. Patient part is straightforward to understand, because traditional VCs, 10-year VCs, will want a 5-year return. Not going to happen very likely on its own in this field. So we wanted to create substantial capital investment, and we decided by our board to make the whole organization a nonprofit. That was unprecedented. Significantly large capital coming in, both as science funding but also as venture. 100% of the profits from the venture going back into the foundation. There is no other organization in aging at all, and in any field of this scale, which is willing to deploy that much capital and not expect a profit return by putting it into the mission. It's a lot of impact funds, but nothing close to this scale. That's what made it a unique opportunity. And frankly, as a CEO, when in your life do you get an opportunity to build an organization, scale it, launch it, drive its strategy in an environment where you're really trying to change a global field? And so that's what Hevolution is. And for us, Hevolution, having 4 pillars, investing in science as a nonprofit. By the way, when we invest and give grants, we expect no IP. That also makes us different. We don't put strings attached to the grants we give. Scientists want to create IP from it. We want you to drive it into the marketplace. We have, as I said, a venture team. We'll be announcing several companies we've invested in the fairly recent future. We're becoming the lead investor in many cases, just given the depth of our expertise on the science side and the scale that we're doing. We're helping drive the field. The third is, you've started to see, we're translating it into what does it mean in clinical practice. And you're seeing a pilot of that. That also makes us unique, because we're actually testing the translational part of it and funding in that translational part. The fourth is the one yet to be developed, which is how do you create the intramural research institute in aging of the future? How do you actually think of that, not in bricks and mortars, but under one operating entity, regardless of where it's physically present? So there's the teaser. We've got a team working through on who are the partnerships. Tomorrow, you're going to hear the first step of our international partnerships, of how we're engaging with academic institutions in that partner. The XPRIZE. Now, I didn't tell you at that time because we were trying to figure out what to do. But if you recall, Dr. Victor Zhao and I had had conversations 4 years ago, when he recruited me to join the commission that helped write the global roadmap on aging. By the way, I know nothing about aging in science. When he asked me to join the commission, my first answer was, but Victor, we've been friends a long time. Aging science is not what I know about. And he says, well, that's probably why I want you on the writing commission. However, he had envisioned that there should be a grand challenge in aging. And we started that conversation completely independently. And so when you and I first talked, there was also this in the back of my mind, and to his credit, he's been a great mentor and champion to actually say, and I know he can't be here today because
he's flying right now, otherwise he would be.
Yeah, he wanted, as also a leader from the National Academy's point of view, to accelerate this and recognize that some form of grand challenge or prize would be it. So, you know what? Talk about destiny. We had the Academy, we had leadership, we had great leadership from the scientific field, we had leadership from my board, and then you and I have this conversation. The rest is going to be history. So I hope that gives you some sort of context of why this was the perfect moment to make it happen.
Well, I can say I truly hope that I'm on stage with you here again before the end of 2030, announcing our winner.
Well, you know, as you heard me say with His Royal Highness Prince Bandar, who's the chairman of my executive committee of my board, think of the stars aligning. We're announcing the XPRIZE, 7 years, 2030. We're hosting it in Riyadh with Vision 2030. And we're now learned the World Expo is going to be held in the kingdom in 2030.
Coincidence?
You know what? I wish I could take credit for coordinating that, but that's got to be destiny. Let's hope we announce the winners, ideally even before 2030. But we've set the right bar.
Again, let's give it up for Mahmood Khan and for Hevolution. Thank you, my friend. Very grateful. We have a second co-title sponsor, another man who's become a dear friend. It was about 2.5 years ago that we made a decision that we had a prize that we thought was doable. And Chip was the very first person to say yes. So Chip Wilson is a serial entrepreneur, a philanthropist, an innovator who loves disrupting things. You know him as the founder of Lululemon, which launched a $400 billion global industry. He is now the founder and chairman of SOLVE FSHD and committed $100 million of his own capital to find a cure for FSHD, a muscular dystrophy, which he has and will speak to. Chip said, yes, I'll be in. He committed to initially $25 million to seed this prize. Then when he learned that Elon had funded a $100 million prize, he said, can we make it bigger than Elon's? Can we make it 101? I said, yes. Would you add the extra million? He did, and then add another $10 million as a bonus prize for FSHD. Please welcome to the stage Chip Wilson. Chip, a real pleasure, my friend. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, well, thank you, Peter. It's exciting. You've been on this road for a long time. I've been on it for part of the time.
Yes.
We're here.
Let's begin with tell people what FSHD is.
Okay.
A part of our mission here is to educate the world about FSHD and put out a call. You know, we all suffer from the same disease called aging. And so hopefully everybody's on that bandwagon. But taking the next step, one of our categories of restoration is muscle function.
Right.
Talk about FSHD to educate the teams here to inspire them to go after that bonus prize as well.
Yeah, that's great because I think in muscle, I mean, I'm my dad was phys ed teacher. I was an athlete. I was thinking about muscle all the time, and then kind of end up with a muscle disease. And it's so anyway, it's called fascicular scapular humeral muscular dystrophy. That's a kind of a mouthful, and it's misnamed because you would think that would mean just the upper body, but in most cases it goes to the legs too. So I was diagnosed when I was 32, no problem. I'm probably one of the luckiest ones, mostly because I think being an athlete, it happens very, very slowly.
And you work out every day? Every day. We played paddle tennis on the roof here yesterday.
I can't walk a straight line, but I can play paddle and tennis.
Yeah.
So which is fun, which is great. Anyway, I think a big part of myself, but I also think yourself, Hevolution, Mahmoud, and Brett Blendy, the rest of your organization. There are certain people that kind of watch the world from the stands, and there's other people that are on the court playing. And I'm with you. I'm on the court playing. So I go, why should I be sitting on the side waiting for life to happen? Let's see. Let's solve this thing for muscular dystrophy. And then I think it just happened to, as Mahmoud said, perfectly align with the XPRIZE and the muscles that you're working on, notwithstanding the other two. So I just couldn't. I mean, we're doing our part on it, but I think this thing there's three things that I see that are happening right now, Peter, is that there's science. And if I go back to 1995, the foundation of digital, and it was just about to explode, and it had the finances behind it, and they were willing to take risk. But I find in longevity, or the health span that we're looking at, people would rather spend $500 on a winter jacket than $500 like expanding their life by 6 years. So something like the XPRIZE and what you're doing is what is required to bring out the ideas, the people, the organization, the entrepreneurs, the innovators, and to collaborate to have something incredible happen. Now, you have the science. Now, you have the XPRIZE with the ability to do it. And because of that, then now you have the funders that are willing to back it up. But we're at this particular time in 2023, just like digital was in 1995, where we're at an inflection point, an exponential inflection point in the science that we have, and this is exactly what's needed to take it to the next level.
Well, my friend, I know that you've been backing scientific teams to try and find, if not a cure, a therapeutic or something to slow and supplement. And on top of that, you've added this prize element, this bonus prize, and backing this. I like to say, people have when you're trying to find a solution, you can go and fund an individual team one at a time and hope you pick the right one. Or as one of my friends, Lee Stein, says, when you're looking for a needle in the haystack, it's nice to have the needle come to you. So I hope that this needle of a solution comes to you through this competition.
Yeah, and I'm just thrilled that, when people are looking at muscle and as deep as they are in that scientific end of it, to be able to think about, well, what would that mean for muscular dystrophy? And, we've got 1 million people in the world that have what I have, and it'd be phenomenal to get a cure for that.
Well, I'm excited. You and I and Jamie and other benefactors will be meeting with the teams every year at our team summit to hear very in detail what progress they're making. And I, for one, I would be nothing greater in the world than to introduce you to the technology that will help you solve FSHD.
Yeah, I've got to keep beating you in paddle.
I know, absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Chip Wilson.
Thank you.
Thank you, buddy. I am so honored to have these benefactors and others. It's now time to actually meet some of the teams that are going to be competing for this, right? It's not enough to have a great set of prize rules or the money. That's meaningless unless you've got people who actually go after and win this prize. And I'll never forget the moment in time where Burt Rutan, after we announced the first XPRIZE. Now, Burt had built the airplane that flew around the world. The Voyager had built all kinds of airplanes. And he stood up at the day that we announced the prize, this day equivalent in 1996. And he said, I don't want to tell you what I've come up with because I want to win this thing. And he ended up 8 years later winning that thing. And very proud to hand him and Paul Allen a check for $10 million. I want to read one thing before I bring Jamie back up, which is, it comes from Steve Jobs, who famously said in 1997, how I think about these prospective teams. Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them, but the only thing you can't do is ignore them because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius because the ones who are crazy enough to think they can are the ones who do. So, Jamie, hand it over to you to introduce some of the crazy ones.
Great. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, everybody. All right, so now we get to have some fun. Okay, so again, this would not be a great prize if we didn't also have great competitors and an incredible team leading it forward. So before I do bring out some of our competitors, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the prize itself. And I'm going to start with actually our medical deputy, Dr. Laura Getz.
Thank you, Jamie. Is this on? So I am a reformed general surgeon, and I say that because after 15 years of operating, I realized that it was the wrong approach, and I switched to trying to prevent the diseases that I was operating on. And I went into preventive medicine, and I am a practicing preventive medicine physician, but I also have been doing translational research in aging and specifically designing novel clinical N-of-1 trials to help solve some of the precision prevention problems in aging. And I joined the XPRIZE Healthspan team as the medical deputy to oversee some of the safety issues and also access and equitability. So I will pass that over to Jamie.
Okay, great. So thank you, Laura. So we also have, actually, I'm going to sit down. We're family here. So again, we have not just Laura, we have an incredible staff at XPRIZE, some of the most great people that I could ever, I'm just so grateful to work with them. I also do need to acknowledge on our immediate team, those who could not be here, Dr. Lauren Pierpoint, who is an epidemiologist and our data specialist, and also Delali Agbele, who you will meet, hopefully, if you compete. She's our prize manager and a great point of contact for many, many things. So again, in addition to those, we have our advisors, we have our community, We had not just the people I introduced before, the endpoints committee, but we've had so much input and so much enthusiasm behind this prize. But it wouldn't make it out the door if we didn't have incredible competitors. But first, what are they competing for? We've already heard from Peter a little bit about what the prize is, right? Is that this is a first of its kind health-focused competition. We're offering $101 million. I'm just going to stop there for a moment, let that sink in. $101 million, and that's going to a competing team who can develop a cost-effective therapeutic that alone or in combination can target biologic aging for actually meaningful endpoints, right? So that we're looking at muscle, cognitive, and immune function. That team has to demonstrate that their therapeutic solution, when taken for up to 1 year, can hit all three, not one, but all three. And it has to be enough of a change, enough of an improvement that it can offset the declines that would be expected in 10 years, 15, or again, that exponential reach goal that I think is crazy, but we're putting it out there anyway. Offset declines expected in 20 years. And so this is an absolutely audacious goal. It's an incredible prize and an incredible opportunity. And we think that it is going to be the thing that could really make the difference in getting things from the lab to the clinic and really help us chip away at that 10-year period that is currently the gap between our healthy lifespan and our life expectancy. So again, now it is time for me to bring up a few people. And actually, before I do that, I also have to mention, that's our primary prize, $101 million. We just heard from Chip Wilson. This is an incredible opportunity for folks working. Maybe you have something that's working in muscle. Maybe you're not sure if you can go for all three. Maybe you've never heard of FSHD. There's a great bonus prize along with that. And so for those that are looking at competing in that, this is not an and, this is not an or. You can compete in both. Right? So I want our teams to go back, look at those, find the competition guidelines, look at how we're defining these things and feed it back to us. This is our public comment period, and we are open for business. And I am confident that if these trials are successful, that it will be possible to improve our health as we age. But in order to do that, it's only going to be as good as our competitors. So now I'm going to actually start bringing some people up with me. Laura is going to move back to her seat. Our first person that we are going to bring to the stage is not really being brought to the stage. He's being brought to the screen. Our first is Dr. George Church. He's a professor at Harvard and MIT, and he's also the co-founder of way too many biotech companies for me to even list. One of those being Rejuvenate Bio. And George, we're going to kick this over to you. I'm going to start out with just one very broad question for you. You've done so many things. Why do you believe this prize can be won?
You're muted.
We cannot hear you, George. We're going to kick that back one more time.
Yeah. So, can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yes.
Hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So, this prize can definitely be won in the time frame we have here, because we're in the midst of achieving exponential improvements in reading, writing, and editing genomes. We also have epigenetic reprogramming of developmental biology is progressing both backwards from 80-year-old cells to embryo-like cells and forwards to essentially any tissue type, and accelerated by 30-fold or more in the process. We've also developed machine learning plus large molecular libraries to design and test millions to trillions of new proteins, gene, cell, and organ therapies. And we use these to make delivery of these more selective and more comprehensive in tissue coverage. We've successfully engineered pig genomes at 69 genomic sites, not just to address the organ shortage crisis, but also to make enhanced organs resistant to senescence, cancer, and immune overreaction. We've made combination therapies and multiplex testing of reversal of multiple age-related diseases already in mice, dogs, and soon primates and human clinical trials. We're not looking at longevity or biomarker tests, but functional restoration, as Peter mentioned in his opening comments. This has been and will be a team effort, and I'm very grateful already to all the people in this room, plus my teams at eGenesis, Rejuvenate Bio, Dino-Therapeutics, and more. The time to act is really now.
All right, thank you, George, so much. We really appreciate you being here, and we're thankful for your comments. Thanks for being here. We look forward to having you in our competition team. Oh, Peter has a question.
Yeah. Do you want to win this?
Peter wants to know if you would like to win this.
Yes, as part of a team effort. The sooner the better.
Well, great, George. We look forward to having you on board as one of our competitors. But again, our competitors are not part of, they're also competitors, but they're also part of a global conversation. So more than that, I welcome you as part of a partnership and a collaboration as we work on this together. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you, George.
Next, we have Dr. Andrea Meyer. She's the Unshu Singh Professor of Medicine at National University of Singapore. And she is actually somebody that I have followed her work for quite a long time because she's one of the groups that are out there that are actually taking things. They have a fully translational model. They're taking things from the lab and actually doing some of the clinical trials of exactly the kind that we're talking about in this prize. Andrea.
Thank you so much, Jamie. And I need a microphone. Okay, now you can hear me. Thank you so much, Jamie. Thank you so much, Peter Diamandis, to launch this. It's wonderful. I think it's really what we are missing at the field at the moment. I'm an internal medicine specialist. What we do in internal medicine and geriatrics, we are dichotomizing our health, and that's not good enough anymore. We really have to now optimize our health, and we can do that. We can do that for the brain, we can do that for the muscle, and we can also do that for our very, very nice immune cells that we really do not have, for example, infections in the end. I'm working at the Center for Health and Longevity at the National University of Singapore, and what we are doing there, really focusing on two things, and that's the first, that's the diagnostics. And what do I mean with diagnostics? How old are you really? What is the biological age in humans? We also do that in mice and C. elegans and zebrafish, etc. But in the end, we have to translate that into humans. While knowing the biological age, we should also have an intervention, because otherwise, I would say as a clinician, it's quite unethical knowing the biological age but not having interventions in the end. How do we achieve that? And it's a wonderful prize with a wonderful mission to really preserve and to maintain and to optimize our body. We do that with large data sets because we already know how people are aging, and we can measure it. And now we have the biomarkers of aging, which we are going to apply. What we already know is that the aging process within a group of individuals is quite diverse. But what we also now know is that the aging process within a body is very diverse. My heart, my brain, my lungs might age quite differently. So it's very important, and that's what we are going to do while competing, is really getting into the grip on what is the aging phenotype of somebody to then give the right intervention. And even that might be different looking at the three different organ systems. So if we are looking at the interventions, might be very, very likely that we do not have one intervention, but we have several interventions and even maybe different interventions in the group of individuals we are going to target. So it is really about making use of all the data available already, measuring the biological age, the root cause of why there is a functional decline of the muscle in the brain, the immune system, and then targeting it in a very, very individualized precision health and longevity medicine approach, which is new. And I would say in a team effort with a collaboration, and I would say a little bit of spice of competition.
Of course, of course. And you brought up something that I think is really critically important, and that's biomarkers. So far, I've only talked about function. That's what our awarding criteria is. But we have additional considerations with the prize. Of course, first, safety. Second is looking at accessibility and equity. But the third, and I'd say really important, is actually this is an opportunity for development of biomarkers and what do we measure and how we measure it. Function, yes. biomarkers as well. And so this is an incredible opportunity, and I'm really glad that you brought that up and that your work in that space has been instrumental. Another thing this gives us an opportunity to do is talk about screening and how do we think about those combinations and how they're tested and in what models. Is that we're driving the R&D stage. So that means research and development. So that's some of the early stages of testing. And so I brought up, this is Dr. Laura Niedernhofer. She is the director of the Institute on the Biology of Aging and Metabolism, or IBAM, at the University of Minnesota. And I'm, again, a huge fan of your work, Laura, and I'm wondering if you could tell me a little bit about screening and drug combinations and your work.
I would love to. And first, let me start by congratulating you, because this is just a really, really exciting opportunity. And I think it's going to have huge impact and really accelerate what's feasible. So congratulations. It's also exciting to be here because I can't think of anything better than teamwork, collaborations, and engaging the community so that we get this right.
Yep.
So what we have been really focused on in our institute is screening drugs, so innovative assays to screen for drugs, and we're particularly focused on senescent cells, which are these cranky pro-inflammatory cells that we accumulate as we age. And we know they cause aging, we know they cause disease, so I think they're a wonderful drug target. So our top priorities are drug screening, drug optimization. We're also making better preclinical models by just diversifying the environment of all sorts of critters that we use in a laboratory to test drugs. But I think that's really important because I think we've done a good job in the field on genetic diversity, but not really environmental diversity. I'm really engaged in AI because there's going to be so much incredible data about which types of senescent cells we need to target. We're very interested in how immunosenescence as well as senescent immune cells, which are different, contribute to the aging process. So I think your targets are right in line with priorities here. I'm also really excited about the fact that we've been able to create a rural network of clinical trials that reaches every corner of the state of Minnesota. I think that's going to be really critical for diversifying who we can treat and make sure that it really is democratized. And finally, one of the things I'm super excited about is the biomedical engineering we have at the University of Minnesota, because I think they showed us in the period of COVID that it's very possible to go with an unknown, right? We didn't know what COVID-19 was, to tests that you can mail out and take care of at home and really reach all corners of the earth. So we're really excited about this opportunity and look forward to collaborating.
It's great. Thank you so much, Laura. And again, it's so impressed and so happy that you're here. And looking forward to seeing how some of your early work, actually in that early stage in those model organisms, comes back to humans. And so I am bringing up now Dr. Eric Verdin, who's the CEO at the Buck Institute for the Research on Aging. And I wanted Eric here to close us out because he's been part of this, of actually starting to think about some of these solutions and how do we go back to humans. Eric.
Thank you, Jamie. Let me also join the two of you in congratulating you, Peter, and Hevolution for bringing us together here. I think we live in an extraordinary time in the way that many of us in this room have been in this field for 20, 25 years, doing work in mice and worms and Drosophila that, frankly, many of us did not think would have any relevance to human biology. And so we're right at this juncture where the time is now to actually move this into humans. And as we've heard at the meeting and in many of the discussions, there are enormous challenges in doing this. It's easy to increase the lifespan of mice and model systems, and we do this routinely in the lab, but when you go into humans, there's an enormous barrier of safety. And frankly, we're trying to rewrite the rules of medicine, how research is done and how clinical trials are done. So in some way, what really excites me about the prize is, of course, the possibility of winning because we're all competitive, but it's more the catalytic nature of this idea to actually get us to work together and define what are the rules of how are we going to translate the science of aging into the clinic. And so For this, I'm incredibly grateful. The Bach Institute that I represent will be a participant, and we will bring all of our knowledge accumulated in the last 20 years of the biology of aging to try to really transform not only aging research, but healthcare and how we age, and really change. I'm, by the way, I'm one of the optimists in terms of, I think 10 years is going to be definitely doable. The question, who's going to win, is not with 10 years. If I have to make one prediction, it'll probably be between 15 and 20. Which is actually incredible. And there's lots of evidence that we can discuss later that I think supports the idea that many interventions today have the potential of doing this. And just imagine, the vision of 10 years from now, 7 years from now, actually, that we will be back on this stage, being able to actually provide to humanity a potential solution of increasing health span and lifespan. So I could not be more excited to be here.
Gosh. Well, this is great. So you have all given some food for thought. Now, it's the time for the call to arms. So I brought up 3 potential teams. We're looking forward to having more teams join, compete, be part of this conversation. But first, who's going to win?
Yeah.
We all going to win.
I guess that's exactly the point. We will all win by joining together and doing this as a team. So again, it's a great competition. It's great for everyone. The starting line is here. And so we're starting now. We have 7 years to get to something that actually can change aging for the better and improve function and health. And so thank you all so, so much for being here. Now I'm going to take back over the reins. You guys go ahead on back. And actually, Peter's going to come up and join me for just a moment. So again, this is our call to arms. It's time to register. The time is now. Our competition guidelines are posted. And again, you can look online, xprize.org. You'll find them there. And we have so much to do and so much to do together. And again, great opportunity, but with any great challenge comes somebody, not just the teams who need to compete, and the world that needs changing, is that it often depends on the crazy idea and the leadership to get it started. And so, Peter, take this opportunity to thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity and for all of us.
Just give it up for Jamie Justice, our executive director. So Andrea, Laura, Eric, and George, thank you guys for throwing in the gauntlet. I'm going to start putting bets on you guys shortly. And I honestly hope we'll see hundreds of teams. We had 1,600 teams enter our last $100 million prize. I hope we can exceed that. We heard from Hevolution, we heard from Chip. I want to just note that this prize, we have the largest number of individual funders. In addition to those 2 foundations, we have 16 individuals who have donated between $1 million and $10 million to get us to our total. And believe me, I was raising money till the very end. I just want to acknowledge those individuals. Christian Angemeyer. Christian is a leader in the biotech field, a major investor, a new friend. So thank you, Christian. Carl Barney, one of our Vision Circle members in Los Angeles, who stepped up to this prize. The Blundy family, Brett and Vanessa Blundy. Vanessa is a director. Brett has been a Vision Circle member now for the better part of a decade. And both he and Chip were on Zoom calls with me, presenting to other billionaires to try and get them on board. I don't know what they're saving their money for.
See, that's a joke we laugh.
Yes. Cass Bordier. Cass is here, a new friend. Cass, thank you so much for your support and your donation here. Grateful. Charlie and Laurie Epstein, members of my Abundance community. Eleanor and Howard Morgan Family Foundation. Howard is an incredible investor and benefactor and a beautiful man and thankful. Dana and Rob Hamwe, also Abundance members. Daniel Krizik, You know him as one of the major benefactors or funders in the field from Citadel, also an Abundance member. Nancy and Howard Marks, friends in LA. Chris Owinga, another Abundance member, along with Christian Peniff, an Abundance member. Senegence and Ben Conte. Thank you, Ben, for your support. Mark Siegel, a member of our board of directors. Todd and Karen Wanik, Abundance members, the head of Ashley Home Store. And of course, I mentioned him earlier, the first and now the last, Sergey Young, our founding seed benefactor that lit the fuse on this 7 years ago. So we're about to take a moonshot all together. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, all of you, for joining us from around the world. We're grateful. Go to xprize.org/healthspan, register, get involved, and don't miss this opportunity to add 20 healthy years. I'm going to stick with 20. I'm not going with 10. I'm sticking with 20. Thank you, Eric. All right, everybody. Thank you all for your involvement and support. That will end our event tonight.